What would you do if a stranger called you by a name everyone who knew had long died? I'm 31, living alone in a small apartment near Colfax in Denver, working as a graphic designer downtown. I have a simple routine. Same coffee shop, same bus at 7:15, same seat near the back. For years, nothing changed. I went to work, came home, paid rent, and spent most evenings with a podcast on. My mother had died when I was 13 and had very less interaction with the rest of the family. One day, a man started appearing at the bus stop. He stood across the street under a broken light wearing the same dark coat every day. At first, I thought he was just another commuter, but he never got on a bus, never spoke to anyone, just watched me. For 2 weeks, he was there every morning, same time, same place, same stare. By 8, he was gone. On the 15th morning, I was too tired to ignore him. As I stepped toward the curb, another man crossed the street and stopped me. "Don't be afraid," he said in a calm voice. Then he said my full name, the one my mother used when I was little. I stared at him. He reached into his coat and held out a small envelope. Inside was a sheet of paper. I read the first line and froze. "This man is your father." I read it again, slower this time. He handed me a second envelope. Inside was a key and an address in my mother's handwriting, Briar Street, on the edge of the city. I looked up. He was gone. That night, I drove to the address. The house sat at the end of a quiet street on the edge of Denver, dark and empty. Inside, it smelled like dust and old wood. A few chairs sat in the front room. The hallway felt familiar in a way I couldn't explain. I found a few photo albums in a closet. There were pictures of me, my mother, and a man I didn't recognize at first. At home, at a grocery store, at a fair. On the back of one photo were 3 names, mine, my mother's, and Daniel. I was still staring at the album when I heard footsteps. "I thought you might come." I turned. A tired-looking man stood in the hallway. "Daniel," I said. He nodded. He led me into the living room and sat across from me. "I'm not your real father," he said, "but I raised you like you were mine." Then he told me about Victor. "Your mother was married to him first," he said. "At first, he seemed normal. Then he changed, controlling, obsessed, especially with me. There was an incident when I was young, bad enough that my mother left him. After that, she met Daniel." He looked down at his hands. "Victor didn't stay gone. He tried to take you once. Misunderstandings came between us and she left even me. That was why she changed routines, changed numbers, moved often, tried to make us impossible to find." "And you?" I asked. "I stayed close," Daniel said, "close enough to know if he came back." Then he told me the part that brought me there. "Victor started looking again. I saw him near your bus stop. I knew he'd found the trail." A floorboard creaked somewhere deeper in the house. Daniel went still. "He's here," he said. I turned. At the end of the hall stood a thin, older man I somehow recognized instantly. It was Victor. He looked at me like he had been waiting years for this moment. "I finally found you," he said. Daniel stepped in front of me. "Back door, now." We moved through the kitchen fast, hearing footsteps behind us. Then red and blue lights flashed through the windows. A neighbor had called the police after seeing strangers enter an abandoned house. Daniel shoved the back door open as the first officer rounded the side. We stepped outside just as the police reached the front. By the time they brought Victor out in handcuffs, he was not fighting. He was only looking at me. Later, I learned he had already been on the police radar. Daniel and I stood outside after the cars left. "I should have told you sooner," he said. I looked at him. "You stayed," I said. His face changed a little. "I stayed where I thought you'd be safest. For most of my life, I believed the wrong man was my father, and the right one had disappeared. I was wrong on both counts."